Because, the zombie apocalypse happened. What we really need to do is kill one another.
I got flashes of that and said, oh no, I can't, no, nothing, no more.
It's gonna be a rough 9 episodes for you.
Welcome to The Right Advice. I'm Randy.
And I'm Amber, and today we're going to be reviewing The Last of Us, but we have a special guest with us today.
Hi guys, I'm Lucy Lindsay. I am Randy's daughter.
And Lucy, tell us about your background relating to this particular show.
Okay, so I'm not gonna claim to know the absolute most about The Last of Us, but The Last of Us is my absolute favorite video game, and I've probably seen the story play out over 10 times, probably over 15 at this point, in combination of me playing it myself as well as watching other people play it on YouTube, and so I know almost everything there is to know.
She's the expert on the story and the scenes.
The closest thing they can get currently.
We thought that it would be a good idea to have Lucy with us for our viewing because Randy and I have never seen the game. We've never played it. We came in knowing absolutely nothing about the story except that it had something to do with zombies. Let's start with first impressions. Randy.
All right, so we have seen a lot of IPs destroyed recently. We have an audience who wants to, they're looking forward to it. We have that with Willow. We have that with, some people are not very happy with National Treasure, but there's a long list. And Velma, wow. You can't score a lower score than that. So we have these IPs, and creators just don't seem to understand the passion and the interest that audiences have for those IPs. I'm glad to say that watching this, I haven't seen it, but it felt like they stayed very true to the IP, and what a welcome relief that is.
Yeah, I would say for me, and I'm not going to make any comparisons to the game since I don't really know, except there are a few scenes that Lucy informed me were in the game or weren't in the game, and I thought some scenes were better or worse. But I was overall extremely satisfied. I think the consensus is out that episode 1 is great. It's doing a really good job, so I'm excited to see more. Lucy, how about you?
So I personally am in love with it. Obviously, it's because they are doing such a good job of transferring it over to a TV show. They are being very true, and at least I've seen so far, they're being very true to the original game, and the characters are all still the same as they were. And even I've seen some shots and stuff that are the same as what I were in the game, and it also, I believe, really, really helps their case that they have original people who were involved in creating the original game were brought on to the show. So they have Guillermo del Toro. I don't believe I said his name correctly.
Yeah, it sounds good.
But he was brought on to help with the TV show, and he was involved in the creating of the game.
Wow.
So,
I love Guillermo del Toro. I had no idea.
Yeah.
That would explain why some of the practical effects look really great. He's so good at that. So, summarizing the story, starts out with a discussion about how fungus could act in a way where it infects somebody and takes over their mind and manipulates what they do. So basically, you lose control of your mind and you become essentially a zombie of a sort. Then we jump in time and we are introduced to Joel and Sarah, who are a father and daughter. And their dynamic is very interesting because we have Sarah, who is the seemingly caregiver in the family. There's no mother that we can see of. She also seems very selfless, nice girl. She wants to celebrate her father's birthday, but he's very concerned with work. So he goes off to work, comes back very late, not a big deal though. They have a little mini birthday, and then he gets a call from his brother who is in jail and says, "You better come bail me out." So he leaves to go and get his brother, and in the middle of the night, Sarah, who's now home alone, wakes up because she hears bombs and helicopters and things outside, and the neighbor's dog has come over. So she tries to bring the dog back over to the neighbors, it's an older couple with a very elderly woman who has been unresponsive up until now. She goes over there and discovers that grandma who was in the wheelchair is not in the wheelchair anymore. She has attacked both of the other older residents who lived there, and she leaves very disturbed. Right as she comes out of the house, Dad, so that's Joel, and his brother or some relative, Tommy, have pulled up in a truck, very panicked, saying, "Get in the car, we gotta run now." And Grandma comes out of the house, clearly not herself, acting very aggressively, and starts running at them. This is when Joel kills the grandma and says, "We gotta go." They get in the car and they are trying to get out of town, and they've explained that there's some sort of a virus that is taking over everybody and making them crazy and very dangerous. And Sarah's worried that they have the virus, but we don't know if they do or don't. And at one point, Tommy notices another family on the side of the road and says, "Wait, we gotta, we should stop and help them." But Joel says, "We have a kid too, keep going." So that is the beginning of this episode. Let's get some reactions, guys. How about Randy, you first?
Let's start with Lucy.
Lucy
Okay.
first? Okay.
A big chunk of that was also new to me. So I have just barely more knowledge going on currently than they do. But one of the things that really stuck out to me from these scenes was the birthday scene where she's giving Sarah's giving Joel his birthday presents. Because that is almost an exact replica from the game, which I'm very preferential to the game just because I'm in love with it. It's my absolute favorite. So I very much like so far that they have been taking lots and lots of inspiration from, obviously, but like direct quotes from the game. And even in the game, you only get a couple of scenes with Sarah in it. So the line, "Drugs, I sell hardcore drugs," and Joel is asking where she gets the money. That is really good. That gave a lot to her character, and it's my favorite line from her, obviously, because she only has a few scenes, but that really lent a lot, and for them to be able to bring that back and still make it work with the extra character that they have given her, I liked that a lot.
There's a lot that goes on there. One of the things that I do appreciate with this series is that they have used excellent techniques for building tension. And a lot of times in the material we're seeing recently, Willow and others, we don't get that. So we start gradually with something as simple as the student next to, is it Sarah?
Sarah.
Next to Sarah, hand trembling. So we already know that the fungus affects the minds of people. So there's just that subtle little hint that something's wrong. And then they just build on it. They don't tell us, "Oh, look, there's something wrong." They leave it for us to observe on our own. So it goes from that, it goes to, what was the next thing that they did?
The grandma twitching in the background.
The grandma twitching in the background. We have the scene, are we up to the point where she's at the jeweler?
Yes,
Yeah,
we've
yeah.
gone, yeah.
Goes to the jeweler's daughter, shuts down the shop. We hear ambulances in the background, or sirens in the background. And okay, so they're making use of the auditory, they're making use of person's reaction to situations, right? All without telling us things are getting dangerous, right? We don't need to be told that. We can see it, and it just builds and builds and builds, and finally, I mean, the one that I felt was extra chilling is when the jets fly overhead, because if the military's coming in, you're screwed.
Yeah, I think everything was built up to really beautifully, nice and subtle. There was only two parts that I thought could have been changed, and that was this takes place 2 years after 9/11, and I thought that when Sarah sees the jets go at overhead, and this is September, it's like September 28th, she should have maybe mentioned something about, we should see an indication that she's still raw from 9/11 right there, but they bring up terrorists later on, so I thought, okay, she thought that maybe the virus was brought by terrorists. The other thing was actually the grandma scene, because I have seen this done before where someone in the background is doing something creepy or weird that the person in the foreground doesn't notice. I thought it would have been better if they didn't show that. She is often in the kitchen with the other lady, and when she comes back out again, we have this great scene with the dog looking at the grandma, very fixated and with a things don't seem right here expression on its face. Good dog. I would have liked to have seen only that, and you could ramp up the intensity a bit more. I'm sure they could have gotten it out of the dog. I'm sure that
Great actor.
Very good actor. I also think that they could have maybe put in a little music to kind of give an added something is not quite right here. We wouldn't really have needed it, but I would like it to have been a mystery at that point, that the dog sees something's wrong, but the audience doesn't quite know what's going on yet. They just kind of know, oh, I'll bet there's something up with that grandma. So that, other than that, everything else was flawless, I thought. Next point. So we're going to do just a quick description of this part. It is chaos in the city. So they've just escaped the old lady's house and killed grandma. They've jumped in the truck and they can't get out of the city because everybody's trying to get out of the city and the military's blocking the other way to get out of the city. So now they've turned around and they're going back into the city, and it is just mass chaos everywhere. I'm not going to go into a lot of the details of this part because I know that Lucy, who has played the game a lot, noticed things that are super similar between the game and the show. So why don't you go into some of that stuff with us?
All right. So in the show, they're driving through and they see the family, and then they see Jimmy's house on fire, and you're kind of stuck inside the car, and it's kind of cramped in here, and you get the feeling that you're really in there. And in the game, it is very, very similar, where you are basically playing director. It's basically a cutscene, and you just get to focus where you want to be looking. And I think there's this one pretty cool part where you are stuck on the highway, trying to get out of the city, and a infected starts running up towards the car, and if you are looking in a different direction, you completely miss the infected just slamming itself against the door, trying to get at Sarah inside. But then once you're in the city, you see lots of chaotic shots of people being in pure chaos and panic. And I know it's very easy to make I'm sure it's very easy to make different chaos scenes look very, very similar. But I noticed a couple of shots that looked straight from the video game. So there's one shot where there is a fire truck blocking the entire road, and just a flood of people comes out of an alleyway, and that is so similar. And then another shot that I was also practically straight from the game was chaos of people just running back and forth across the street, and you see this one person dragging another injured person to safety. Safety. There's not really anywhere safe at this point. But it's very cool. Not only are they using a lot of the same script from the game, which I very much am happy with, but they're also using very, very similar shots, or the exact same shots, and getting it as close as they can. And I am very, very in love with that part of it.
Was the airplane in the game?
The airplane was not in the game. You get rammed by another truck.
Did you like it to be an airplane? Was that a good change, or didn't matter change?
It, to me, at least, it didn't matter a whole lot. It still got you the exact same effect. Just in the game, the car is flipped over.
Oh, okay.
And Joel has to kick out the front windshield.
Okay.
But other than that, it's pretty much the exact same.
Okay, cool. Randy, got anything?
I love the sequences of chaos. And for however long it lasted, maybe 5 minutes or so, you see the world devolving to utter chaos, to an apocalyptic state, right? Right before your very eyes. And you can just imagine that happening all over the world. So for me, that was an especially effective scene that leads us up to when we eventually segue to modern day, in the future, the apocalypse. You're like, well, yeah, we saw how it got that way. So very effective, very scary in my mind.
I loved that, exactly like what Lucy said, being in the car. So I was reminded of the movie Drive, the first few minutes of Drive, which the camera is inside the car with the passengers. It doesn't go outside of the vehicle at all. It happened again in this And I thought it was so effective because that claustrophobic, we're trapped in here, and you can only see what the headlights can see, which is so great because you never know what's lurking right off on the side, and it'll take advantage of that. So this was just brilliant. I have no complaints. This scene was perfect in my mind. I liked the airplane because it was so creepy seeing it tilting, and that's not how a plane's supposed to fly, and it's getting really close. So I loved that. The big event that happens after this is the men are separated. It's Tommy on one side. Joel has Sarah. Sarah is injured from a piece of shrapnel hitting the vehicle, and she's now got a twisted ankle. So Joel's carrying her. They run across some zombies in a back alley, and they gotta run. Well, Joel has to run because he's carrying Sarah. And we can see that the zombie is not your typical zombie. It's very fast. They escape through a restaurant or something, and when they come out the other side, it looks like they're going to get caught by the zombie, but somebody shoots it. Who is it? The military. A soldier is there to save the day. Oh no, the soldier is getting orders over the phone, like, turn your gun now on Joel and Sarah, because we don't know if they're infected or not. And you can see the decision making happening in the soldier's body language, that he has to shoot them. And what does he do? He shoots them. Joel has tumbled over a hill. The soldier is standing over him ready to shoot, but now the soldier gets shot. By who? Tommy, to save the day. However, Sarah has been mortally shot through the gut, and unfortunately, despite all of Joel's trying to comfort her and protect her and all of this, she passes away. So that is the next beat. What do we got? You want to tell us a little bit about the zombies?
I am being looked at by two people, so I'm going now. All right, so this is also shown earlier on with the grandma, but you get more of a hint of what the fungus does to the infected's brain. So first with the grandma, and then with the second guy tumbling through the restaurant, you see that this fungus has made them very, very strong, very fast, and it makes it easy for them to catch up to their prey and start eating. But they don't have any fine motor skills. They just are fumbling around. You see with the grandma, she stumbles into the kitchen counter trying to chase after Sarah. And the other infected, he's crashing into counters and crashing into a wall, just trying to take a bite out of Joel and trying to eat. And so I'm very, very good at showcasing that part of it.
So was he trying to eat him or just bite him?
Well, eat him, because the fungus, they say in the first intro scene that the fungus is trying to feed itself.
Okay.
So it's just trying to consume flesh, or consume whatever. It's trying to feed itself.
Okay.
And so the easiest way to do that is either by straight eating people or spreading the fungus.
Okay.
But it's also a fungus, so I don't know what it's thinking. So
So you and I talked about this before, but it looks like they have something coming out of their mouth. And was that in the game?
Don't think so. I don't believe that's a thing. So basically, the way the fungus progresses, and you don't see it until later on in the game, but when they are infected for long enough, fungus starts growing on their face.
Ooh.
Which I will get back to at the end. Yeah, so as it starts progressing more within the host body, it spreads more and more, and even later on we found even more progressed fungus infected people. So at one point there is something called a bloater, which is fungus is completely blind. It's bloated, it's huge.
I was gonna ask, is it bloated?
And at least in the game it can throw spores, and yeah, it's
okay.
Yeah.
No thanks.
But obviously those aren't going to open or come out on infection day, because that's the first day. Nobody's been infected long enough for those to happen. So you don't see those until later on when you cut to 20 years later.
Looking forward to it. All right, Randy, thoughts on this scene?
All right, I'm going to go back to the scene with the soldier. This is an especially effective scene. So our heroes, they have gone through all sorts of trials to get to where they're at. I mean, so neighbors who've turned on them because they're zombies, and other people, I mean, if they have the chance, would steal the car. avoiding accidents, a plane exploding. I mean, so everything. So you get to, so they finally get to a point where they could escape, and a soldier steps between them and the way of escape. And here's the thing, psychologically. So we think we get to the government, we get to the soldiers, we're safe, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for that soldier to want to shoot them, that shows that our own government turns against us, that we have no refuge. There is no place. So we are playing on all the horror elements of this story by doing that. And they do the scene especially well. So it's not just a like, okay, I'm going to shoot you. Boom. No. This conversation that he has with his higher ups, you can tell he doesn't want to do this. He really doesn't want to do this. And you can feel that he realizes that or he believes that the reason to do this is correct. That if they let people escape, the problem in the city doesn't become the problem in the city. It becomes a problem in the whole state, the whole county, the whole state, the whole country, right? So he does this. So it's very well played, all without telling us what that conversation really was. We only hear half of it, and it's super effective, and it's super heartbreaking to see all control and structure the world. I mean, it kind of really represents the death knell, the last bit of our world being destroyed, which would be the government, the chance to recover from this.
And I'd like to point out as well, in the video game, the soldier is even more hesitant than in the show. In the show, he's just asking, "Are you sure? Can you repeat that command?" But in the game, he says, "Sir, it's a little girl." He has a little girl with him.
I like that. Oh, I wish they'd put that in.
Me too, but yeah, so
I'm going to be asking you a lot of this. What was in the game that wasn't in the show and vice versa?
I know so much.
Yeah, I want to see what was chosen to be different and it was better, and what was chosen to be different and it wasn't better. So in this case, the game was better, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about this earlier before the cameras were on, but in the show,
yeah, when we get to that scene, we're gonna go over that for sure, because that was a big deal.
Oh, did we not already pass that scene? I thought we did.
We're at Sarah's death.
Oh,
That's all
mind.
If you want, maybe we can cut that bit out and put it.
We can put that in later.
Okay. So going back in time, do we have any more on anything up to Sarah dying? No.
I think that's all we have.
It was sad.
It was very
super sad. I still cried. This is my, I don't know, like 16th time seeing it, and I still cry. So,
I think that this was a really good setup for showing Joel's character as well, and like I know that there's going to be a big thing with him and restoring his position as being a father, a protective father, because that's what he was up until this point, and now he has lost the one that he was supposed to be protecting. So I really liked all of this as a setup. I don't even know how to describe. There's a puppy in the room, if we didn't mention it earlier, and it's very happy to be here.
She's really excited right now. I don't know why.
So yeah, Randy's not petting his leg, he's petting the dog. So
Or
here she
am
is.
I?
But okay, I'm going to go over what happens next. So at this point, we have a 20-year leap forward. We're in Boston now, which is a quarantine zone. And we get to learn a bunch of things. So rather than going over it point by point, I'm just going to talk about the things we learn. We see that there is a military dictatorship called Fedra that is in charge of everything. Oh, we also have the rules for how you figure out if somebody, or how long it takes somebody to get infected. So, you know, within 2 hours, this will happen. Within 4 hours, this will happen. Or basically where you get
5 to 15 minutes on the head or the neck.
like if you get bit there, it takes 5 to 15 minutes to infect you and you're done. So
8 to like 18 hours or something, or 8 to, I don't know, 2 to 8 hours.
It takes longer the further
on
away
the
from
torso,
the head.
and then like 24 hours on the legs.
Yep. They now have a machine which they can use to check and see if you have been infected by the virus. If it goes green, hooray, you're fine. Red, you got it, and they will kill you. Even if you're a child, they will just euthanize you. She did it in a very nice way,
Thankfully,
though.
they don't like, you know.
It's just an injection. But yeah, anyway. Anything more on the world that they've set up? Anything that was different about the quarantine zone that you could tell?
Not a whole lot.
they're executing people for leaving or coming in without permission.
Yeah, so this scene is also new to the show. So we, up until when we're reintroduced to Joel in this later section, I haven't seen anything before this. Well, we just watched it, but before that.
Okay, so we see also that Joel is a changed man now. He has no problem with disposing of a child's body, which is one of the many jobs that he does now, is taking the infected bodies and throwing them into a pit of fire. And he's in the black market. So he is in touch with smugglers, and he is on both sides of the aisle. Sometimes he's selling things to soldiers and sometimes to regular Joes. One thing he wants, though, is a battery for a truck. And he's working with a soldier to get a truck. And he is going to find some other way, or has some other way, that he's acquiring a battery. And the whole point of this is to try and find his brother who is missing. Next bit is we are introduced to Tess. And Tess apparently is working with Joel because she's meeting with this guy named Robert. And Robert was supposed to give them the battery that they were looking for. But it turns out that Robert has sold the battery to somebody else. He doesn't have it. Robert indicates that he is afraid of Joel and that everybody is afraid of Joel. So
rightfully so.
He has clearly gone through something that has changed him, even to the point that they don't seem to see him as like a guy they can trust, which I never got that impression before. So do we want to discuss that anymore? The change in Joel?
Not so much the change in Joel. I mean, it is obvious that he has been hardened by the experience, the loss of his daughter. But technique-wise, they do an excellent job. So if you want someone to be a tough guy, you don't have him go around telling everyone how tough he is. You don't have his friends talking about how tough he is. You have the enemy going like, we call your guy off. All right? No, we're sorry. We're really sorry. Please call your guy off. Okay, then we know he's a tough guy. And that's what they did, and that's all you really need to know. From that moment on, I know that Joel in this city is considered problematic if you cross him, right? He's a real threat if you do him wrong. So they did a beautiful job. We can expect that he's going to be very proficient in killing. So excellent job, and doing it the right way, subtle, not talking about it.
And one of the dynamics I really like in the game is the dynamic between Joel and Tess. And there's one scene in the game that really shows like the dynamic between them when they're out in the field, which is the interrogation of Robert. Robert's men initially went after Tess and attacked her of their own accord, and Robert did not tell them to go and do this. But in the game, Robert says, go after these people because I screwed them over and now they're going to kill me. So I need you to kill them first. So I think she was mentioning that she also liked that better in the game as well. But in the show, they don't have this scene. So they kind of make up for that by having this scene where Robert is openly talking about how he's scared of Joel, rightfully so. And then combine that with another scene later on where Tess is getting information from somebody and Joel's just kind of sitting back, just kind of being like the muscle on display, just being a presence there so that people know. So I think it's not exactly the same, but it does. I personally still prefer the game version of the interrogation with Robert, but the other two scenes are making up for it.
You felt mostly satisfied, like the message is still the same.
Yeah, the message was still the same. It still conveyed it.
Nice. Later, we see Tess and Joel together in their apartment, and this is the first time that we see the two of them interacting together. Joel's very protective of Tess, seeing that she has been beaten up, but Tess is tough, and she says, let's go and get the battery and kick Robert's ass. So she is ready to continue with the plan, even though it seems that they have been duped by Robert. Do we have some comments on that?
The interaction between Joel and Tess, to me, reflects the interaction with Joel and his daughter. So,
I was thinking the same thing, yeah.
So the daughter, early on, kind of takes care of Joel. I mean, we see that, he's an adult, he goes out, he's responsible, he has a job and everything else, but he misses some of the finer details of taking care of himself. And it feels to me like Tess does the same thing. She kind of takes care of him. And then in return, he's very protective of her. So it was a nice mirroring. We still see the same Joel inside. I mean, at least part of him, even though he's been hardened, we can tell that he still can create bonds and be protective and care for someone. So, I mean, I do like that saying. It's good.
So I'm hesitant to say transference because I don't really believe that, but it's kind of like his protectiveness has found a new host, not a new host, but a new person to be protective over.
Well, I was just thinking, because a new host, is he some sort of virus too?
No, because initially you see him being very protective over Sarah, and then he loses her, and obviously he's gonna still be protective over his brother Tommy because he's the older brother. It's kind of his duty, right? But then he meets Tess, and we haven't learned a whole lot about how they met, how their relationship developed. But immediately after seeing Tess beaten up, he immediately gets up and grabs some alcohol and a rag to clean her up, without hesitation. Just that immediate protectiveness.
Now we'll talk about Firefly. So we know that there is Fedra, which is the military dictatorship that is ruling over everybody. No one can leave, no one can come. But there's some rebels called the Fireflies, or Firefly rebels, whatever. They want democracy. We are introduced to them first through Ellie. So there's a girl named Ellie. She calls herself Veronica at first, and she's being held captive by Firefly. And it turns out she is immune. She has been bitten, but it's been several days and no transformation.
It's been almost 2 weeks.
3 weeks.
I think
3 weeks.
It's been 3 weeks since she's been bitten. We don't know how long the rebels have had her, the Firefly guys have had her. She indicates at the very least 3 days. Then we're introduced to Marlene. Marlene is the leader of the Fireflies in Boston, and she has been coordinating all of these attacks all over the Boston quarantine zone area. The puppy is going bonkers again. She's been coordinating all of these attacks, and when she's finally questioned, why are we doing this, she reveals what the plan is. So the plan is that all of the Fireflies in Boston are going to gather at a safe house, at the safe house that they're in, and then they are going to escape together. They're all going to leave Boston behind, and they're going to take this girl Ellie with them. They have received some information from their guy in Salem over the radio, and this guy, whatever it is that he's told them, because we don't get to know this information, whatever it is that he has told them, it is enough for everybody to be excited and motivated, like, we're going to do whatever it takes. So that's what they're going to do. Then we have a scene with Marlene and Ellie. Marlene goes in and talks to Ellie, and we discover that Marlene is actually the person who put Ellie in a military school, which is where she has been up until now.
Essentially an orphanage.
Yeah.
But military run.
Yeah. So she's been in this military orphanage school this whole time. She's a teenager at this point, but she's been in there since she was a baby. And we find out that the only reason why the Firefly people have her now is because Ellie tried to escape, or did escape, from the military school, and the Firefly people caught her. And apparently they saw that she was bitten or something, but they decided not to fire on her. And that was Marlene who said, don't fire on her. As far as Ellie is concerned, we only know one thing about her personally, and that is that there's somebody named Riley in her history that affects her a lot. When she heard the name Riley, she was on the verge of tears. Yeah, shook by it, definitely. So let's talk about Firefly, Marlene, and Ellie.
All right, so Marlene is interesting, and she introduces an element of mystery to this, because she is the one who placed the child there. I'm sorry, Ellie. She's the one who placed Ellie there because that would be the safest place for her. So she obviously knows something. She obviously knows more than she's telling us, more than she's telling anyone else in the story. There is definitely a background that eventually I hope is going to come out. Is there going to be any background coming out on that?
In the game, Ellie released or told Joel about the relationship between her and Marlene on the way to the safe house. So I'm not sure if they're going to be bringing it up in a different scene or not. But by the end of next episode, if not, I will let y'all know.
All right, and it's hooked me. I really want to know what that relationship Marlene has with Ellie and why she specifically hid this child. I don't believe that this is the only child that needs help, and she's stepped in and helped. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that.
Yeah, I have to totally agree that this was the section about that was establishing mystery, things we want to know. Riley definitely want to know about what was the history between Marlene and Ellie. Want to know. I also want to know what this message was that came from the station in Salem, because the audience doesn't know what is in that message. But when Marlene showed it to another gal in Firefly, that gal immediately went from questioning Marlene's leadership and what she's been doing to, this is, I'll do whatever you want, whatever you need, you got it. So whatever is in that message must be monumental, because went from questioning the person she's been following, bombing parts of the town, to I will do whatever you say now. That's a big shift very quickly. So it must have been monumental information.
It must, because she's going to go do that without ears.
I think it was just,
one ear.
Just one ear.
Yeah, one ear got blown off in the fight with Robert.
I prefer to think that both ears were blown off.
It's like the screaming guy.
What, so they match? So she matches on both sides? She can't wear earrings, though, ever again.
No.
Okay, so the next bit is Tess and Joel are on their way to intercept Robert, where he's going to sell the battery. We don't know where. They are going through the subway tunnels, and they come across somebody who is infected and dead. So apparently you can get infected where the fungus goes through you, and then it can't go anywhere else, and it expires as well. So, or it seems to.
For the case for that one, for the infected person got killed in one way or another, whether they got killed themselves or they killed themselves. But the fungus kept growing on them. So
okay,
the
gotcha.
host is dead, but the fungus is still growing, trying to spread.
Okay, but it can't go on.
Yeah.
All right, that makes sense. Because, I mean, it seems like a headshot definitely kills the human, but I was wondering if it kills the virus too. Or the fungus too.
Yeah, in the game, they have spores that come off of these dead bodies, and that's how the spores are created and spread. But I believe they've gotten rid of them in the show, so...
Okay, I will be curious to see if those spores come in, because that's horrific to me. Little tiny microscopic things flying through the air that you could inhale. No, oh, okay. All right, so they go through the tunnels and they come across the infected. Then they come out in where they know Robert is going to be with this battery. Turns out it is the safe house for Firefly, and Robert is dead, and there's dead bodies everywhere. There has been a gunfight. What happens is they discover Robert was trying to sell a dead, faulty battery, so it was no good anyway, and there was a gunfight as a result. The only survivors appear to be Marlene, another gal named Kit, and Ellie. Marlene and Kim, yes. Kim. Oh my gosh, I called her Kit. I wonder why. Okay, so Kim. Oh my gosh.
Kimmy no ears.
Kimmy no ears. That's terrible.
I didn't do it to her.
No. Okay.
Maybe it was Robert, you know?
Somebody did it. It was a terrible thing to do.
I just came up with the new name for her, that's all.
I hope we don't get in trouble for this.
Torso boy.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so we have Marlene and Kim are both injured. So the plan that they had before with getting all the Firefly people together and escorting Ellie to this station over in Massachusetts, that's not going to happen now. So Marlene tells Joel and Tess, you guys are going to do it. Now Joel and Tess, they want a truck, remember, because they are actually trying to go and find Tommy. So Marlene says, if you take Ellie to this group of Fireflies at the State House. The State House, they will supply you with a truck and guns and other supplies, and you'll be good. And so they go, okay, we'll do that. And so that is the plan there. So do we have anything to say about this hallway moment?
We get another evidence of how badass Joel is. because Marlene is immediately like, no, you're going to take over this assignment. We had a whole squad of people going to go who are now dead, except for Kimmy No Ears. And but now you two of you are going to go and take place of my entire squad. So we get another testimony that Joel and Tess are obviously bad news. You want to stay away from them. They're tough. So I mean that's good. I really like that.
I wonder if these two characters are going to appear later on because they're injured. They're not dead.
They will. At least Marlene. Kim is a new character unique to the show, so I don't know about her. Maybe she's gonna die from missing an ear. Don't know.
Is that fatal? I guess if you bleed enough.
Well, yeah, it's not fatal though. But Marlene does show up later on.
Okay, cool.
But then also in this scene, it is revealed a connection between Marlene and Joel, and she recognizes him through his brother Tommy. And I don't know if it's revealed. I don't think it was revealed. But
Joel says Tommy joined you guys.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Okay, so Tommy was a firefly, and Joel believes that Marlene turned Tommy against him. So the relationship has soured a little bit.
I like that. I didn't catch that. All I caught was that Tommy
He said, you turned my brother against me.
Yeah, but he didn't just mean you guys. He meant you specifically. That's nice.
Yeah, so the relationship is a little sour. So it's also still telling that Joel is still super protective of Tommy and still wanting to get in contact with him and going through all this.
So was that something in the game where at this moment in the hall where we discover that Joel holds Marlene personally responsible for Tommy's change, or was that something that you discover later on?
In the game, you meet Marlene a little bit differently. You meet Marlene after an interrogation of Robert with Tess and Joel. So Marlene shows up, and then she says, hey, I am kind of bleeding out right now. She's already injured when she meets them. But you guys need to come with me. I have a job for you, and I'll get you everything that Robert promised you. Which in the game was just guns. I'm not sure I don't remember exactly how it was revealed, but basically we just learned that Tommy was a firefly, and he says he was one of you, when you would know where he is, or stuff like that. And he talks to Tommy later on when Tommy gets reintroduced in the game. He talks to Tommy more about the fireflies.
Okay, so it might not necessarily be this point when the Marlene in particular is responsible. But okay, so then they kind of stuck true with that. I also caught, you mentioned like, I'm bleeding here. That was a funny moment. I totally laughed at that.
Kind of bleeding out,
like,
you know.
Can you guys, make your discussion happen faster? That was good. That was in the game.
Yeah, it was phrased a little bit differently, but she was like, I kind of don't have time to be standing around right now.
Nice.
Can we move and talk at the same time?
Nice. I like that. That is appropriate humor, which we've been seeing misused in another show we've been critiquing. But I liked that because it was a good tension breaker, but at the same time it was reminding them of like, hey, things need to happen fast. It was weird because it broke the tension, but at the same time it said hurry up. So well done there. Next, we've got Joel and Ellie go back to the apartment, and Tess is off to find a way out of Boston. They know of several different ways, but she's got to find the best one for that night. Joel and Ellie have a moment in their apartment where they're interacting with each other, and Ellie she overhears them talking about somebody named Frank and Bill, and she discovers a book of music from different decades, and inside is a sheet of paper that says F/B, and then it has, 60s means nothing new, 70s means new stock is in, or something like that, and 80s, it just has a big red X. And she tricks Joel very cleverly into revealing what the red X is. I'm not going to go over it now. If you want to find out how she does that, it's really clever and cute. I liked that interaction. But we see them talking, and they bring up a few things which Lucy's going to go over that were in the game. And we see that Joel's not very forthcoming with any information. So I think let's go from there. I want to hear about what you know. Oh,
I have a lot to say, so I'm going to see if Dad has anything to say about this interaction between them.
Good character development. That's the thing throughout the show. They have had good character development. We see that Ellie is smart. She tricks Joel, and so she's smart. Also, we are starting to see um, uh, mirroring. We're starting to see Ellie act with Joel much in the same way that Joel's daughter and him acted with one another. So not completely, just the very first hints of it, and then of course that's very appropriate, right? We see them moving towards a friendship, and this is the first step of doing that. And so I think it was a very subtle and well done element.
Yeah, so like my dad was saying, the parallel between Joel and Sarah and Joel and Ellie is with Sarah, whereas the banter was very playful, very lighthearted, and then with Ellie, it's very similar banter, just with a lot more angry undertones because they currently really don't like each other, and are not getting along. Given that Ellie tried to stab Joel and Joel pointed a gun at Ellie, it warrants it, you know. But in this scene, it shows this is another scene where they took basically exactly from the game, and I absolutely love this because in this scene, Ellie is trying to make a conversation with Joel, trying to get information about the code. Um, and then Joel lays down to go to sleep until Tess gets back, and you get this shot of Joel laying down, and you get a shot of his watch that he got from Sarah. And Ellie makes the point to point out, saying, "Hey, your watch is broken." And you realize, hey, it is broken, and despite the fact that it's broken, he still wears it to remind him of Sarah. So here you have a girl who is the same age as Sarah, who points out Sarah's watch, who is having the same playful banter with Joel, same banter with Joel that Sarah had, and already lots of connections, like my dad was saying.
And I'll point I'll point something out. At least this is what I kind of felt. Joel and Ellie are kind of the apocalyptic version of Joel and Sarah, right? I mean, because that was a kinder time. That was a time where the whole world wasn't worried about being eliminated by the zombie threat, right? So these are harder, meaner versions of the characters. And I know it's two the girls. They're two different girls, but uh, it's a harder version of them than what started the series. So I mean that I especially liked that transition. That we see characters appropriate for the setting and time. So I mean I loved it. A lot of the whole show has a lot of really subtle storytelling methods that work, and these are the kinds of things that you want in a film or a book to really move the story forward so it's not noticeable to the audience, and it just every one of those adds a layer of richness to the story. So I mean I am super happy with what they've done here.
And another something about Ellie and Sarah being very similar. I believe, and I know lots of other people think that if they had been given a chance, Ellie and Sarah would have been really, really great friends because you don't see it really in the show, but in the game, for a little bit, you play as Sarah and you get to walk around Sarah's bedroom and you get to see a little bit more of Sarah's, like, what she's into. And so you kind of get this vibe that Sarah's kind of going to be like a grunge teenager, and obviously you haven't seen a whole lot of Ellie yet, but you can see that given the chance and given the same like opportunities that Sarah had while, there was still an economy, um, Ellie would have probably been very similar and very into like the rock and roll and everything.
Did we see Sarah's shirt? She wore that pink shirt with a rock singer.
Yeah,
What was
so
that?
you get a little hint of that.
Mm-hmm.
She wears a very similar shirt in the game as well, and like I was saying, she has the same necklace on in the game and the show. But yeah, so you don't get to see a whole lot of like the grunge, like the potential grunge teenager that she's
Yeah.
gonna turn into in the show. But yeah.
Okay, because I kind of picked it up just with that shirt, but I didn't even notice that's what I was looking at. So,
Yeah.
oh, well, that's interesting. All right, so the next bit is Joel and Tess and Ellie go through the tunnel and pop up on the outside of the Boston quarantine zone. They encounter a guard. Turns out it's a guard that Joel has been selling some stuff to and was actually involved in the whole let's help me get a truck scheme.
It was the dirty guard we had seen with earlier on in the episode.
Yep. And so the first thing he's going to do is he's going to scan them all to see if they have the virus. Obviously, Tess and Joel, they're clean, but right as he gets to Ellie, Ellie pulls out a knife and stabs him. Then we see the guard is standing there with his gun and light aimed at Ellie and Joel has a flashback moment.
And what do we call that? You know that term.
Not when I'm put on the spot.
Oh, she knows that.
Well, go ahead.
She knows that. Lucy's very knowledgeable about writing techniques. You show something at the beginning and at the end.
Yeah. Mirroring.
Mirroring.
It took me so long to remember.
So, yep, he is in the same scenario that he was with his daughter when his daughter was killed. And so something snaps in him and he launches himself at the guard. And I think we can assume he killed him, beat him to death. That is when Tess picks up the machine that was testing them and sees that Ellie tested positive. They freak out. Oh my gosh, she's got the virus. But Ellie says, no, I've had this for 3 weeks, and shows them a bite mark or point of entry on her arm. So by 3 weeks, she should have become a zombie, but she hasn't. So they've lost a little bit of the fear, and now they realize they got to get away from here fast because guards are going to come get them. And so they run off together towards the cityscape. And as there's thunder and lightning, you can see that there are more zombies where they are headed. And that's what we are left with at the end of episode 1. I want to hear Lucy on this one because she brought up a really cool thing right about the ending. Go ahead.
All right, so real quick, so with the flashback with Ellie, that's one more thing to add on top for Joel's comparison with Sarah to Ellie. And then also in the game, I wish they would have made a bigger point about her being infected. In the show, it's very brushed over, saying, it's 3 weeks. Okay, we gotta go. People are gonna come. And it was very rushed over. In the game, they stopped for a good little bit, and we're like, Joel, they screwed us over. This is a setup. They gave us an infected girl. And she has to literally stop and make them stop talking and say, no, this is 3 weeks old. And they're like, no, you're lying. Everybody turns within like 24 hours. She's like, no, it's 3 weeks. So it's a little bit more like hesitant for them to accept this fact. And I wish they would have done that in the show.
Yeah, I think I would have wanted them to be a little bit more clear with when she got bit or whatever and how long it should have taken. I mean, we figured it out, but honestly, I had to pause and go, wait a minute, she's been with the fireflies for like 3 days, but then she says this wound is like 3 weeks old. So when did she get bit? While she was still in the orphanage? Oh wait, she ran away and maybe she's been gone this whole time. So it was a bit confusing for me. How about you, Randy?
I am going to talk about mirroring. So that is a writer's term. And what it means is we have a scene that happens at the beginning of the story, and we have a scene that happens at the end of the story, and they look very much the same. So in this case, Joel protecting the girl, right? His daughter and Ellie, right? And the whole point of it is to show change. So the hero should have changed her. Now, in this case, this is super clever. In this case, it's not showing change, but it's kind of showing a rebirth. Kind of like, here's a chance for a different path. Path A, he didn't save his daughter. His daughter died. Path B, he's able to save Ellie, right? And then you can almost think that this is what life would have been like if he had been able to save his daughter. So we've kind of put him on a new trajectory with a daughter like friend. I mean, whatever. It's like a daughter. It's going to be like a daughter, right? And so it's really beautiful that they use the mirroring to do that. So it's like it's a redo for him. Mirroring usually is most common in romantic comedies. Just so you know, they do that lots in romantic comedies. So
I thought it was super effective. I really enjoyed that bit because for me, it was the start of Joel's journey. I mean,
right.
He was essentially dead inside, just going on this step by step, with the exception of Tommy. He seemed to really care about finding Tommy and what happened to Tommy. But this was bam, protector mode. I'm going to protect Ellie. She's not just cargo anymore. She's a representation of the daughter.
Yeah, super powerful.
But that final shot, right before they roll to the credits, it was beautiful. So they show the trio running into the city, and it pans up to the tops of the buildings, and you see a flash of lightning, and you hear all this clicking, and you see a clicker lighting up in the lightning, and it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful shot. And clicker was one of the advanced fungus type infected that I was talking about. That's
Okay.
the one where they have fungus all over their face, so they are completely blind, and they navigate using sound.
Ooh.
Yes, so in the game you have to sneak around because walking, they can hear you walking, so you have to you have to sneak around, but they're completely blind, so you can walk in front of them, you can walk with your flashlight on, but it's very difficult to navigate around the world when there's clickers and runners. Runners are the base infected when they're just
launch
the grandma and the guy in the restaurant.
I love that there's a whole hierarchy
Yeah.
of the zombie things, whole mythology behind it. That makes it really
and
great.
Even more get introduced in the second game, which the show doesn't cover the second game, but in the second game there are even more types. But yeah, so you pan up, you hear the clicking. I don't know if you guys heard the clicking, but
I heard it, but I didn't catch on to what it.
Yeah, that was a horrible impression, but you get the idea. So you hear that, and if you're watching this for the first time and you have never seen a clicker, you don't know that is the thing making that noise. You don't know what that noise means.
So you got the chills going, oh, I can't
I
wait to
was
see.
too busy loving the cityscape. It was just so apocalyptic, and that's my genre.
He didn't even see the clicker the first time.
I didn't even see it. I'm like,
clicker was like this big on the screen, so it was very hidden detail.
It was very tiny.
It was a very hidden detail. But yeah, so they use like echolocation.
That is so cool. Oh, so I feel like this is one of those shots that is specifically there for the gamers. Because we all know they're going off into the unknown. All of us, or at least the audience who's never played the game. But the people who've played the game, this was a little Easter egg that was like, you should be excited for the next episode. So even if you weren't impressed with everything else we did that was so close to the game, look at what's coming, and doesn't it sound awesome?
Yeah.
So not only have the creators respected the IP, they have taken pains to include things that their fan base who've played the games will notice, and then people like me that I'm like, okay, Lucy's played it and watched it. I don't know anything about it. I'm going to miss those details, but they've gone in and included this so that their fan base is happy. They can get a little extra, like Lucy was like, oh, look at that was a clicker, right? And justly so, right? So good on them for caring about the fan base.
Yeah, I think that's something that we see a lot of other shows and movies not doing. They don't care about any source material or IP that existed before. They're going to do their own new thing with it. But this seems like it really honored the original IP. So
yeah. Well, also, really quick. So the last shot, the shot itself was very, very beautiful, even without the clicker and the clicking. The shot itself was a very, very beautiful shot. And they also have very beautiful shots in the game. And it was a AAA game, which if you don't know what that means, it just means it was very, very high quality. And lots of manpower went into it. So it had like motion capture, so actual actors acting out as these people. So it was a AAA game, very, very good graphics. Even in 2012, it had really, really great graphics, which is when the game came out initially. So in the game, you have these beautiful shots because you're walking in the wilderness and the world's been taken over again by nature. So it's very, very beautiful. And I really hope that they even in the TV, I hope they don't get like too focused on the other stuff and still remember to have those like very beautiful shots dedicated to just the beautifulness in that, because that I love the graphics.
I think it creates a complete feel too. So we've commented on this before, Randy and I, about how putting multiple bits of genres into a story is good sometimes because it opens it up to a wider audience. And if it's all going to be gross and disgusting spaghetti coming out of their mouth, zombies, I think some people will be turned off to that. But if you have moments of beauty in there, that gives it gives it a scale of variety of like, here's really grotesque stuff and here's really beautiful stuff. It feels like there's more variety in the show that you're watching. So nice. So we've got just a couple more things left. Let's go on to favorite scenes.
Obviously, any of the scenes that came straight out of the game were I loved. But one of the new scenes that was new to the TV show was the scene when Sarah goes into the house to investigate the neighbors, make sure they're okay, and she sees the grandma kneeling over Connie, the other neighbor. And the grandma lifts her head up and has this stringy bits. I love that shot. Just the shot itself was a very beautiful shot. And I know I was just talking about beautiful scenery, but it's beautiful in a different kind of way, you know?
In a way that will put me off spaghetti for the rest of my life.
You're the one that compared it to spaghetti.
I know, but yeah.
And you're the one who liked Prince Graydon
making out with the
crone.
Sorry,
not Eric. Prince Eric making out with the crone.
Yeah, in our Willow review. Oh, it's great. Anyway, we won't get into that. But yeah, it was so gross. But I can get it. I can see why you'd be like, oh yes, they showed it. It looks good.
As a heavy gore fan, I loved that shot. It was very, very nice for me.
It makes sense now why you like it. Randy, favorite scene?
All right. The one I probably enjoyed the most is the opening scene with Joel and his daughter. So their banter, I mean, I liked it. It was friendly, it was cozy, right? But I'm not going to pick that one. The one I'm going to pick out is the scene where the soldier is getting his orders to kill Joel and his daughter. Because you know what's going on. That is such beautiful horror. You know what's going on. And it's slow build up to that point where he finally pulls a gun out and shoots, right? So that was incredibly well done. And maybe you've got a sense that this is where the daughter dies, right? And, I'm not going to say if I cried or not during that, because actually I probably did. All right. And so that was the most effective scene in my thought.
Nice. For me, the most effective scene, and it has nothing to do with the storytelling, it's literally just the cinematography I thought was a great choice, was being in the car with Sarah. So when the apocalypse has first hit and the whole family piles into the truck and they're trying to escape, but they end up having to go into the city and the city is in chaos. I loved it because it all takes place inside of the cab of the truck. You feel very claustrophobic and helpless because you can't control what's outside. You also are limited in what you can see. Now you can turn your head and look, and as you described in the game, that's what you have to do in order to see things that are happening. But you can only see what the headlights of the truck can see, and what the headlights can see is horrific. So I thought it was excellent use of excellent directing that it all takes place inside the cab. Other than that, I mean, the storytelling I thought was solid. I had no complaints. I thought everything was really, really good.
They should turn that to a ride at Universal Studios.
Yeah.
Oh, especially with the zombie crashing into the door.
Oh my goodness. Oh, that'd be scary. That would be actually a super awesome ride.
I would love that.
Holy
It'd
moly.
be super cool.
I would never ride it, but it would be.
I would ride it all day, every day.
I would stand outside with ice cream and be like, let me know when you're done. I'll be here not thinking about spaghetti. Okay, so next is going to be predictions, or in your case, I'm going to ask what you're looking forward to.
No, she didn't give her favorite.
Oh, wait,
did you?
yeah, she did.
Did you?
Well, I can't choose a favorite of the game, the scenes already in the game, but of the ones, the new scenes.
The new ones?
The grandma with the Connie hanging out of her mouth.
I laughed at that part. Okay, I do want to say that Lucy and I had a conversation while we were watching the show, and the new scenes that they aren't exactly, to me, they kind of felt like, you play a game, and if you replay it, you can pick a different path, right? Make a different choice. And to me, it felt like when she would say, "This is what happened in the game," and then we see what happened, I'm like, oh, I can totally see that being within the game. This is just that other decision that I made.
Mm-hmm.
And
kind of like a butterfly effect kind of a thing.
Right. And so it felt even the new scenes felt very much part of the the game, right? They belonged. They weren't jarring. They didn't stand out as separate. They felt like they were part of the game.
Sorry, so next we're going to go over predictions, or in Lucy's case, it's going to be something you're looking forward to that'll probably happen in the next episode without giving away too much. But let's do Randy first.
Okay, so I think Granny from the very beginning is going to come back because I don't think they finished her off. So she's going to come back seeking revenge. No, I'm just kidding. I just totally made that up.
It's for sure gonna happen.
Holy moly.
It's gonna come back as a bloater.
yeah, don't send my mind that direction. All right, so what I'm expecting is obviously this is a simple mission, and that never happens. When they say simple mission in a movie, what that means is the team that Joel's supposed to hand the girl over to will be dead, or mostly dead, or try to kill Joel. I don't know. There'll be some variant on it. It will not go smoothly, and obviously Joel will well, I'm still going to go after Tommy, and I guess I just take you along with me. That's my guess. Or the bloated grandmother. I mean, one of the two.
I think if it's bloated grandma, I'll be hiding under the couch until the horror is over.
Well, you don't get to see a whole. I mean,
we get to see bloated grandma.
No, the bloatedness doesn't really show a whole lot. You know, the bloatedness, thankfully, is.
It's bloated, but don't worry, it's not so bloated that you're going to be put off by it, because bloating never puts anybody off.
I mean, this is as good as bloating can get.
Okay. And then you're doing yours.
Okay, this is just a long-term prediction. I think Ellie is, it's possible that she is actually not immune, that she is maybe the next level mutation of this infection. Because isn't that what we've been seeing happen up until now? I would love to see that. It probably won't happen, but I would love to see that.
Pretty good theory.
Yeah? I think it's interesting because the idea is that this was a fungus that only affected insects, but now it affects people, and it has control of what you do. So I'm thinking, what would be the next level if it suddenly feels, oh no, being in people, that's a threat. What do I do now? Well, it has to change its strategy. So maybe it is becoming sentient through humans. I don't know. That's just a thought. Let's see. Oh yes, what you're looking forward to.
So there is a scene, specifically a conversation between Joel and Tess, while they're being surrounded by Fedra. And the scene is very
intense,
very tugging at your heartstrings. In my opinion, not nearly as much as as the Sarah scene, because Sarah was very just heart-wrenching. But this scene, it is very tugging on your heart. But I am interested to see how. I mean, I'm sure they are going to do the scene justice, but I'm also interested in seeing their reactions to it and seeing how they respond to it.
I thought you were going to warn me so that I
in
can
the state
leave the
house. If anybody in here knows what's coming, I'm talking about the scene in the state house.
Okay. So. That's ominous, so we know that Fedra will be there.
I don't want to see that scene.
I don't want to see any scene with the fungus that's taking over them. Because I
got a whole show ahead of you.
I got flashes of Annihilation. If either of you guys have seen the movie or anybody out there has seen Annihilation, that scene with the guy in the subway tunnels who was infected, I got flashes of that and said, oh no, I can't, no, nothing, no more.
It's gonna be a rough 9 episodes for you.
I'm looking forward to the nightmares for the next 9 weeks.
Luckily, only like half of the enemies are infected. Half of them are just
normal people who are bad.
And that's good, because the zombie apocalypse happened. What we really need to do is kill one another so that we have less of a chance.
There's cannibals too. So
yes!
Don't worry.
Okay, I can get behind cannibals.
We get infected eating people and normal people eating people. Don't worry about it. Well, normal.
I'm very interested in cannibalism. That's going to be great. That's going to be so fun. It's going to be a blast. I just know it. All right, so let's do ratings.
I'm giving it a 9. Yes, hog. A 9, and I'm sticking with it. I kind of thought about maybe a 10, but I'm strong 9. It's a post-apocalyptic. That's my favorite genre. and the writing has been so sharp on this, and the acting very good. So yeah.
I'm gonna give it a 9 too, and I'm giving it a 9 as an intro episode because later episodes they better improve and they'll still be a 9. But if they don't improve, it will go down. But as a setup and giving you things, this is an establishment of the world and a setup for what is yet to come. It did everything beautifully. Very, very happy with everything that happened. Very few complaints. I think it's a great first episode. Really good.
I'm giving it a 9.5. I
Ooh.
don't know if points are allowed.
Yep.
But I'm giving it a 9.5, and the only reason it's not a 10 is I'm basing it off of how much I love the game, and the game for me is a 10 because it's my favorite game. And the show is very, very good. It's just some aspects, some choices they made and changed scenes out or changed different aspects. I liked them better in the game, but it's 9.5. I loved it.
Nice. Seems like they've got a good success on their hands. This is refreshing. Let's hope that it ends better than some of HBO's other shows have ended. All right, do we have anything else we want to talk about? No? Looking forward to episode 2. Yes, definitely looking forward to episode 2. Well, we hope that you enjoyed this this review, going through it chronologically. Let us know if that works for you, and we hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.